Tales from the Dark Multiverse, Blackest Night, Issue 1, written by Tim Seeley and art by Kel Hutz. Or Hutz, maybe, I don't know.
Right.
Need to ask him how he pronounces his name. It looks good written down, I'll give it that much. So this is basically the idea that if in Blackest Night, because I mean we've done a few of these now, we have a bit of Tempest Fujino at the start talking about the Dark Multiverse and how all these are worlds that have been the same but they've went wrong, blah blah blah. But ultimately the premise of this one is that in Blackest Night, so Sinestro became the first White Lantern, and he ended up sharing it with everyone so that the White Lantern Corps of all our Justice League could fight on the Necron's forces and so on, and they won the day, blah blah blah. Here, Sinestro didn't want to share, and he kept it for himself. So the Black Lanterns won. The Black Lantern, essentially a zombie virus, is kind of really. It's almost like Deceased in a way, where everyone just starts changing to death and zombified. So this is about Sinestro, Lobo, who can't be killed, so the Black Lanterns can't take him, and Dove going on a bit of a mission. They eventually interact with Mr. Miracle because we get to like Barda and all that, and the Furies all Black Lanternized.
So so the Black Lantern without Earth, being the stopping point, Necron is starting to infect the galaxy. Because Sinestro's really the only one that can fight him, but he's half Black Lantern himself. So half of his body is dying. The white's keeping him alive.
He's got like a Two-Face thing going in his face.
Yeah, and that he can also revive with the white power just enough that he can actually kill
just
Black
temporarily.
Lanterns. Yeah. So basically Lobo's been sent by Mr. Miracle, we find out, to get Dove because he wants to channel the source energy. Which again, that's a nice tie to the other stuff that's been going on in Justice League and whatnot. To basically fight back the Black Lantern force because the White Light failed. And of course, this being a horror book, it all goes to shit.
Yeah, they're going out to the source wall. I have to admit, I was reading, this is the last thing I read before we recorded, and I was kind of dozing off halfway through, and then woke up and realised I'd lost 20 minutes and went, shit. So the back half of this, I kind of just skimmed through quickly without reading. But mainly because it sucked, and I didn't want to really read any more of it.
It's a slog, and I love Blackest Night. It's one of my favourite events.
It is my favourite event. I would say it is my favourite DC event.
Yeah. And I just I don't know if I had just read Deceased and it's handled so much better, right? Or if this just wasn't actually that good, but we had Necron Darkseid, which is pretty cool.
I mean, that sounds cool on paper, but
here's the thing: there are some things I like in this. Conceptually, I think out of the three we've had so far, that Sinestro just didn't want to share, I think is the most plausible thing that's happened yet as to the reason for things going wrong.
I also think out of the three so far, though, this was by far the hardest one to actually get through and read, and the least enjoyable.
Absolutely. I think a large part of that as well is the art. And I don't think the art's terrible. I think it is absolutely the wrong art for Blackest Night, though. We've spoken about the other two, and I know we might have preferences, but both of them were perfect for that time period of comics, that story.
This is not the same Ivan Reis, Doug Mankey.
It feels really, really 90s art. Like this would have worked on Death of Superman, probably. This artist, I think, but on Blackest Night, not so much.
No.
The other things I like. I think it brightens up a little bit when Mr. Miracle shows up. I think.
Yeah, that's fair.
People play off him really well.
I think one of the biggest problems of this is that they've got this format where it has to fill like 50 pages, and honestly, this was maybe a regular 20-page comic.
Story.
Yeah, but I think even less than that. Like I felt so much. There was so much back and forth in all the conversations, every single point along the way, that it felt like it was just dragging out the whole way across the story. So
it's unfortunate because I've really enjoyed the last two, and I think because this is 2 out of 3 are still good to great. I'm not super concerned going forward. I'm hoping it's one rough one out of the 5-ish I think that there are.
I mean, the probably the big dark thing towards the end is that Sinestro gets enough control of the White Lantern and uses the power to actually bring Hal, and he's
Sword Sapphire.
No, it was
No.
Sonic.
Oh no, Sonic.
Yeah, it was
That's
just
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he brings them back only for them to be immediately like killed, like
Decapitated by
Lobo.
Lobo with his chain.
yes.
Yeah.
Also,
We get Lobo being pulverized by Necron side, only to have a bunch of clones grow from his blood, because that's how Zarnians work.
I liked when I think it was pretty early on. I think it was Lobo. His eye getting popped out.
Yeah.
That looked pretty good. Early on in the book, I wasn't like going, "Oh, this is terrible." Immediately, I was like, maybe I'll pick up. And I was like, okay, that's some of the signature violence, I suppose, that's been on this.
Yeah. So basically, towards the end now, that basically they kind of defeat Necron, but at the cost of starting everything over with the source energy, and it basically creates a society that worships Lobo, and in that society, it grows faster than normal, right? And they end up becoming a plague. So it wasn't just the Black Lanterns; it ended up becoming the Zarnian plague that ravaged the galaxy, with Sinestro being the only one left as it goes to darkness. And I was like, nah, this is a little bit too dark for me. Like, I get that it's horror, but
see, I'm kind of okay with the ending. I like this concept of it goes wrong, and it's like all these other species, like wolves and apes and stuff, are kind of evolved like over the course of months instead of millennia.
Years. Yeah.
And it doing this, that's kind of a nice concept. It's just at that point I was so out of it, I didn't care anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's how I got too. Like, it's a good concept, and I like Tim Seeley a lot. The majority of stuff I've read of him is good. So I came into this going, oh, he's handling one of my favorite events. This should be good. Only to be super disappointed in that how much it dragged in the middle. Like, I kept checking the page count.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm still not done.
I these things are actually kind of like viciously long in the sense that I checked the page count and I realized I was starting to really not like it, and I was like maybe a quarter through. I was like, too much.
That does hurt a lot.
So what are we rating it?
This is like a 3 for me, I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4.
3.5 for some nice ideas.
There you go.